Glastrier or Spectrier? Which horse is better? Let's break it down.
Butterfree, go!
Yo, whoa, what is going on YouTube? It's your boy Dan, aka aDrive. I'm bringing you guys a brand new video today, and today we're actually going to take a competitive analysis at both Glastrier and Spectrier and determine which horse is better and how you can use these two brand new horse Pokemon in the upcoming VGC season, Series 7, which is going to feature a ton of legendary Pokemon, as well as the two new horse legendaries, Glacier and Spectrier. Now, the fusion with Calyrex is banned, so I'm not going to focus on that in this video, but I am going to talk about the two new horse Pokemon and which you can utilize for your team moving forward for competitive VGC. For those who don't know, I am a competitive player. I've done competitive for over 10 years, and I recently got into VGC. My most recent event, I actually top cut a regional. I was pretty proud of that, but then the COVID kind of pandemic happened, and I wasn't able to compete anymore because they canceled all the in-person tournaments. But I'm really excited to pick up VGC again, and I want to see if you guys are interested in that. If you want to see more VGC on the channel, be sure to hit that like button down below. Subscribe to the channel if you guys are new, and of course, YouTube tells me that about 50% of you guys are actually not subscribed to the channel, so let's change that right now, and we're going to break down these two brand new horse Pokemon. Let me know in the comment section below which one is your favorite, and let's not waste any more time. Let's jump into the video, and let's take a look at Glastrier. Before I go any further, I want to tell you guys about my Team Shiny Charm plushies. These plushies are available right now for just a few more days to pick up at teamshiny.com. These plushies are incredible quality, and they're guaranteed to increase your shiny luck, and they'll honestly just look great in your office. There's my head for scale. Pick one up at teamshiny.com. So taking a look at Glacier, it's very important, if you have not done so yet, to try to get a 0-speed Glacier. I actually did it on my channel, and I did it live during my charity marathon where we raised nearly $300,000 for the kids this past weekend, which was incredible. I got pretty lucky and got mine within about a half hour. But really, when you hunt for that Calyrex Glacier, if you want to have Glacier, it's important that when you unfuse it, Glacier has 0-speed IVs or no good speed. The reasoning for that is because you want to be as slow as possible when you use Glacier. Let's take a look at its stats. Glacier sports an impressive 100 base HP, 145 attack, which is insane, base 130 defense, 130 special defense, and 30 speed. So as we can see, it is incredibly slow, very, very bulky, and super duper physically offensive. This Pokemon has me really excited as an offensive ice type attacker that can deal massive damage under the Trick Room condition, which is going to make it so slow Pokemon move faster under Trick Room. So in double battles, pairing this with a Pokemon like a Dusclops could actually be really advantageous, and I'll talk about that strategy here in a little bit. Generally, the best nature to rock with would be a Brave nature to increase your attack stat and lower your speed further. Again, we want to be as slow as possible, and of course Glacier only has one ability in Chilling Neigh, so you're guaranteed to lock that in. So if you knock something out, you actually pick up a boost to your attack stat, making you even stronger than before. In terms of held items, I'd recommend considering things like Weakness Policy, which are going to double your attack and special attack stat if you're hit by a special move. Assault Vest, which is going to boost your special defense by 50%, but make it so you can only use attacking moves. A Choice Band, which is going to increase your attack stat by 50%, or a Life Orb, which is going to increase your attacks by 30%, but at the cost of 10% of your HP every time. I personally think that the Weakness Policy set and the Assault Vest set are going to be the best bets for this Pokemon. In terms of its EV spread, I would definitely recommend maxing out your HP and your attack stat. However, on specific sets, I can see reducing some of that attack or some of that HP and putting it into your special defense if you want to be a little bit bulkier, especially when factoring in Assault Vest so you can get the most out of that. But generally, it's a pretty safe bet with this Pokemon to max out your HP and attack stat and maybe tweak it ever so slightly depending on the metagame. I don't necessarily think that's going to be needed. I think just max HP, max attack is going to be your most efficient approach. When it comes to its viable moves, there's a handful of things you can run. You could try things like Icicle Crash or Avalanche in terms of your ice type attacks. I do prefer Icicle Crash though, because it's a little bit less situational, and under the circumstances of Trick Room, you'll be able to attack at normal priority. Giga Impact is a normal type move, which will slow your opponents down, but hit very, very hard for neutral damage on most Pokemon. High Horsepower, an incredibly powerful ground type attack that's going to increase your special defense under the circumstances of Dynamaxing. Mega Horn, very powerful bug move that's going to lower special attack. Outrage will lower the physical attack stats of your opponents if you max Wormwind. A couple dark moves in Crunch and Throat Chop, both of which can be viable. Superpower and Body Press are your fighting type options. I do prefer Body Press in this instance because of how high Glacier's physical defense stat is. And last but not least, you have Heavy Slam, which remember will not work on Dynamax opponents, but under the conditions of Dynamaxing yourself, you can actually utilize Max Steel Spike, which is going to deal massive damage and boost your physical defense up in addition. I think it's important to note that Glacier weighs a massive 1,700 pounds, so this thing is huge, and it's going to deal a crazy amount of damage to a lot of those redirection users like Clefable and Togekiss, which oftentimes don't Dynamax anyway, so you can deal incredible amounts of damage to them. I think the best set right now is to run Protect, Icicle Crash, High Horsepower, and either Body Press or Heavy Slam. If you choose to run that Assault Vest set, you can actually just run both Body Press and Heavy Slam, which gives the opportunity to hit incredibly hard with your Ice type moves, boost both your physical and special defense, as well as your attack stat, all at the same time. Kind of like how Mudsdale functions in competitive Pokemon right now. I really recommend you guys try the pairing of Dusclops using Trick Room and Rock Tomb with Glastrier using Weakness Policy and offensive attacks. You can activate Trick Room with your Dusclops, and then on the following turn, go for Rock Tomb into a Dynamax Glacier, double your attack and special attack with your Weakness Policy, and ultimately steamroll your opponent under the Trick Room condition. Either way, I'm super excited to try Glacier in the competitive metagame because I think it's going to be a really fun Pokemon to utilize in Trick Room. Ice types are known for being incredibly powerful when they attack, and in the case of Glacier, it's got some really good bulk despite a very bad defensive typing in Ice type. It's got enough coverage to function, great overall stats, and I think could be a huge menace in the Trick Room condition. Switching things up, we're going to look at the Ghost type Pokemon Spectrier. Spectrier may appeal to many more people because of its design, but from a competitive perspective, it couldn't be more different than Glacier. Spectrier sports 100 HP, 65 attack, 60 defense, 145 special attack, which is up there with Pokemon like Chandelure, 80 special defense, and 130 base speed. This thing is incredibly fast and hits incredibly hard from the special attacking side. However, it is much more frail than the counterpart, Glacier. Spectrier has base 100 HP, which is going to hold it down most of the time, and a relatively decent typing in Ghost makes it so it's not going to be hit by a ton of super effective moves, especially with a lack of dark type Pokemon in the metagame. You do have that opportunity to potentially live some hits, especially under the Dynamax condition. I can actually see this Pokemon utilizing a weakness policy as well, but I think there's some better options which we're going to talk about here. In terms of Held Item, I really love this thing rocking a Life Orb to boost its attacks by 30%, Choice Specs to boost its special attack by 50%, Spell Tag, which will boost its Ghost type moves at 20% without any drawbacks and not revealing its item, which is always important, or a Focus Sash, which will allow it to live a hit and guarantee the live. But again, under Dynamaxing, I actually think that Spectrier can live some decent hits because of its okay special defense and its good HP. It's not super duper frail. Like, its physical defense is frail, but ultimately it can live some hits, especially when Dynamax. So a weakness policy is something to consider as well, especially if you're able to scout out what the other team has and understand that they'll be able to hit you with some super effective moves. We'll have to see how the metagame shakes out and whether Pokemon like Incineroar are going to continue to be dominant and whether the Dark type and Ghost type coverage is going to justify rocking a weakness policy on this Pokemon as well, but don't sleep on that because it definitely is an opportunity. Now, when it comes to an EV spread for Spectrier, it's pretty straightforward. You're generally going to run either Timid or Modest Nature, both of which are going to either increase your speed or increase your special attack at sacrificing your attack stat, which you're not going to use anyway. In terms of other things, you can run max speed, max special attack in terms of your EV spread. There's really no reason to run anything else. But for its move pool, this is where things get a little bit tricky, and this is really the downside to Spectrier. It lacks a really good offensive move pool, so it's kind of relegated to having to use some pretty bad moves. So let's talk about those right now. Shadow Ball is going to be a staple. That's going to be the move that you're going to click most of the time as its best special offensive Ghost type move. It also gets access to Hex, so if the opponent's status, you can actually hit even harder, but I think Shadow Ball is overall going to be more reliable. You can use Nasty Plot to double your special attack stat in one turn, but again, you're going to most likely take a hit if you do that. Follow Me users in redirection like a Moongiss, Togekiss, and Clefable can help with that, but again, be mindful that this thing is not exactly the bulkiest Pokemon in the world. Hyper Beam is another move that normally I would not recommend, but under the Dynamax condition can prove to be a really powerful normal type attack that can deal massive damage considering its 145 base special attack. And really the key to this thing is its new ability, Grim Neigh, which is going to boost your special attack stat by one stage if you knock something out. So getting those knockouts early in the match, especially under your Dynamax condition, is going to be so crucial for Glastrier and Spectrier both. But in the case of Spectrier, it doesn't really have the bulk to take hits, so you really need to be snagging those one-hit KOs to the best of your ability. In addition, we've got moves like Will-O-Wisp, Snarl, and Taunt, which can be utilized as more tech-type moves if you want to burn your opponent, slow them down a little bit with their special attacks and Snarl, and of course Taunt to stop Pokemon setting Trick Room and redirection and things like that. As we said, Spectrier is incredibly fast, so fast Taunt can be super valuable. In terms of other attacking moves, it does get access to Mud Shot, which can become Max Quake, which can hit certain types of Pokemon like Steel type super effectively while boosting its special defense. And you also have an option of Dark Pulse, a pretty good Dark type coverage move that pairs very nicely with Shadow Ball to give it decent coverage. But unfortunately, as I've said, its coverage is really limited to basically Ghost and Shadow Ball, Dark Pulse and Dark types, Hyper Beam for normal moves, and then Mud Shot for ground. That's really about it. You can also run Calm Mind on this thing to boost your special attack and special defense by one stage, which I think would be more of a single battle strategy, but it wouldn't be that bad considering after a Calm Mind boost, this thing is actually pretty bulky if you're setting up on a special attacker. If it was me, the first set I would definitely run is a more offensive set designed to pick up KOs pretty easily. So I would probably lean towards a more Life Orb, Spell Tag, Choice Specs type of set to deal massive damage. Don't forget Choice Specs does get ignored though under the Dynamax condition, so you would lose that boost. But otherwise, take advantage of this thing's blistering speed at base 130 and its incredible special attack set at base 145 and do your best to knock out your opponent before they knock you out. Because if you can get a boost or two, it's going to be very hard for your opponent to live those attacks, especially when Spectrier is Dynamaxed. That's an in-depth look and a nice glance at these two brand new Pokemon, Spectrier and Glastrier, the two horse Pokemon that are going to be very, very, very common, I think, in the upcoming metagame for Series 7. They're going to have some serious competition. There's no joke about it. They're going to have to compete with the likes of Landorus and other legendary Pokemon, but I think their new factor is going to shoot up in usage. People are going to want to use them, and ultimately, I do think they have a space in the metagame just as both a Trick Room offensive threat and a super speedy special attacker. If it was me, I'm a big fan of Glastrier, the Ice type, but I also love utilizing Trick Room, so I might be a little bit biased there, but I think Spectrier's lack of good move pool is definitely going to set it back. Ghost is a phenomenal attacking type though, so don't let that kind of steer you away. There's not a ton of normal types in the metagame, so generally you can deal some massive damage with this thing. But again, if you run into a normal type, or if you run into some dark types, you simply just do not have the coverage to deal with them. So your team is gonna have to really be built around handling those threats otherwise. I hope you guys enjoyed this competitive breakdown for both Glastrier and Spectrier. Let me know in the comments section below which one you guys plan on utilizing, and hopefully you guys enjoyed this video and this competitive analysis. If you wanna see more like this on the channel, be sure to hit that like button down below, subscribe to the channel if you guys are new, and let me know which horse you're gonna be using. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace. If you enjoyed this video, you definitely should check out this video on the Crown Tundra. Otherwise, check this one out right here. If you don't check out one of my videos, man, these horses, they're gonna steal all your carrots.